Hello, everybody. Today we will talk about a very important system, which is the urinary system. Urinary system is the major excretory system of your body. Most of the toxic chemicals are excreted out from the body through the urinary system. Urinary system produces urine, and urine excretes the toxic chemicals that are produced in the body. So first we will see the parts of this system. Then we'll talk about the functions of the urinary system. Then we'll talk about the anatomy of the kidneys. Your kidneys are the main organs of the urinary system. So we'll talk about the kidneys. Then we'll talk about the blood supply of the kidney. Blood supply of the kidney is very important because you know that kidney works as a filter. So it separates the toxic chemicals, take out the toxic chemicals and water from the blood. So blood must circulate inside the kidneys. So we need to know the blood flow or blood supply of the kidneys. Then we'll talk about the functional unit of the kidney. The functional unit is called the nephron. So nephrons are the functional units of the kidney. We'll talk about the nephrons. Then we'll talk about the capillaries. There are three types of capillaries inside the kidney. We'll talk about those three types of capillaries, and we'll talk about the formation of urine, how kidneys produce urine. First, the organs or parts of the urinary system. You see, in the lumbar region, that means in the back uh, of your trunk, in the lower back, you have the lumbar areas where the kidneys are located inside the body. Now, the kidneys are bean-shaped structure, and these are the kidneys. So you have two kidneys, right and left kidneys. Now, your kidneys produce urine. So the main function of the kidneys is production of urine. So in one, sentence, we can say that the function of the kidney is production of urine. Okay. So kidney does what? Produces urine. Okay. Now if I ask you, second question is how the kidneys produce urine? By filtration. So the process is called filtration. Okay, so now we can say that kidney produces urine by filtration. Okay, after the urine is produced in the kidneys, then you see these two tubes, long narrow tubes, bring the urine into the urinary bladder. So from the kidneys, these tubes bring the urine into the bladder here. So these two tubes are the ureters. Okay, so ureters transport urine from the kidney to the bladder. Then the urinary bladder holds the urine or stores the urine for few to several hours. So that is the function of the bladder, holds urine for few to several hours, and which is very important. Your kidneys are continuously producing urine, right? Because blood is continuously circulating inside the kidneys, and kidneys are filtering the blood and producing urine. Now, if you didn't have the urinary bladder, then uh, from your body, continuously urine would have got out. That doesn't happen. So the bladder is very important. It holds the urine for few to several hours, and when we desire, we can excrete the urine to the outside of the body, to the atmosphere. Okay, and from the bladder you see a narrow tube like structure that takes the urine out to the atmosphere, to the outside of the body. That is called the urethra. Okay, so urethra takes the urine out from the bladder to the atmosphere. Now the urethra, only this part is different in male and female. Female urethra is much shorter than the male urethra. Okay, so male urethra is about 15 to 20 centimeter long, but female urethra is about 5 centimeter long. So you see, male urethra is much longer than the female. So those are the parts of the urinary system, and the function of the individual organs: function of the kidney, function of the ureter, urinary bladder, and urethra. Okay. Now, as a whole, if I talk about the functions of the urinary system, as a whole, the urinary system performs a number of very important functions. As I mentioned already, that it is the main excretory system of the body. So most of the toxic chemicals, metabolic wastes, are excreted through the urinary system, through the urine. And toxic metabolic wastes include urea, uric acid, ammonia, so those are toxic chemicals. Okay, there are more, but those are the main toxic chemicals. They uh, get out from the body through the urine. Regulation of blood volume. You all know, if you drink a lot of water, then the amount of urine or production of urine increases, right? So what happens when you drink more water? Drink more, your kidneys produce more urine to regulate the volume of blood. After you drink a lot of water, the blood volume increases because the water enters into the blood. So your urinary system will do what? Will produce more urine. So excess amount of water would get out from the body, and that's how the urinary system regulates the blood volume. Now think opposite. If you are not drinking water for a couple of days, then the volume of urine will go down significantly. Why? In this case, your urinary system is trying to make concentrated urine, will try to hold the water in the body, will not let the water get out by producing highly concentrated small amount of urine. So you see, your urinary system you know regulates the volume of water in the blood. Regulation of chemical composition. If you take too much, like salt, which is sodium chloride. Okay, then your urinary system will do what? Would excrete the sodium and chloride through the urine. So it will regulate the concentration of the chemicals in the blood. If in your blood the hydrogen ion concentration increases, that could be dangerous. Increased hydrogen ion causes acidosis. Acidosis, because more hydrogen ion means more acidic. So in that case, urinary system will do what? Will excrete excess hydrogen ion, okay, through the urine. So hydrogen ion will get out through the urine, and the body will get back to normal. Okay, the acidosis will be taken care of. So you see that your urinary system regulate the chemical concentration in the blood. Regulation of pH, same. I already explained that when hydrogen ion concentration increases in your blood, that is called acidosis, and in that case your urinary system will do what? Excrete excess hydrogen ion. Okay, so the pH will go back. More hydrogen ion means less pH. This is important to know. If hydrogen ion concentration goes up in your blood, the pH of the blood will go down. That means acidosis, acidic, which is not good for your body, not good for your cell. So the kidneys will do what? Urinary system will excrete excess hydrogen ion from the blood. So the pH will go back, pH will go up, go back to normal. Okay, so that's how by regulating the hydrogen ion concentration, your urinary system regulates the pH. Okay, endocrine function. Inside the kidneys, two important chemicals are synthesized or produced. One is called the renin, another is the erythropoietin. So renin is responsible for regulation of blood pressure regulation. That is a very important function, right? So uh, erythropoietin, its name is telling you erythropoietin produces uh, the red blood cells, stimulates the bone marrow to produce more red blood cell. So stimulates bone marrow, which is the site of blood cell production, right? Bone marrow. So erythropoietin will stimulate the bone marrow to produce increased production of red blood cell. Okay, so that is the endocrine function of the kidneys. Activation of vitamin D. Uh, with the help of sun, you all probably already know that your skin produces what? Cholecalciferol. Cholecalciferol, which is a precursor of vitamin D. Then blood takes the cholecalciferol, which is less active, to the kidneys. We talked about this before. Kidneys, and inside the kidney, cholecalciferol will be converted to calcitriol, okay, which is actually active vitamin D. Vitamin D. So you see, inside the kidney you have converting enzyme or CE that converts cholecalciferol to calcitriol. That's why it has to go to the kidneys. So that's how the kidneys help to produce vitamin D. So all these are important functions of the urinary system. Anatomy of the kidney. Kidneys are located in the lumbar region, as I have mentioned already, in the back part of the you know lower part of the body, trunk of the body, and kidneys are retroperitoneal. Most of the abdominal organs are intraperitoneal. Like this is your abdomen, this is the back of the body. So your kidneys are in the lumbar, in the back of the body. So these are the kidneys. And then peritoneum, is the connective tissue covering like this. That is like this. So this is the peritoneal cavity here. Peritoneal cavity. Okay. Now you see your stomach, your liver, your intestine, right? Pancreas, those organs all are inside the peritoneal cavity, inside this cavity. However, you see the kidneys are outside, the back of the peritoneal cavity. That's why they are called retroperitoneal, behind the peritoneum. Retroperitoneal. But these are all intraperitoneal. Your stomach, your liver, your intestine, uh, uh, pancreas. Most of those organs are intraperitoneal. Okay. Right kidney is slightly lower than the left. So your right kidney is slightly located slightly lower than the left. Why? Because you know that your liver is mostly in the right side. So this is your liver in the abdominal cavity. Okay, so this is the liver, and then kidneys are under the liver. Okay, so since this part in the right side, the liver is bigger, so that pushes the kidney, okay, slightly down. So this is your right kidney, and your left kidney has more room above, so it is slightly above. So that's why right kidney is slightly lower than the left to provide some room um, to the liver, for the liver. Okay. Um Renal hilum is this indentation. You see kidney is bean shaped, I mentioned before. So this area is called the hilum. So it is like uh, bean shaped like this. Okay, so this area is called the hilum, and your ureter, ureter takes the urine out from the kidney. Ureter gets out through the hilum. Also the renal artery enters into the kidney through that area. Renal vein passes through that area. So in the hilum part you have ureter, you have renal artery and vein. So all those structures pass through the hilum, this area, okay, that indentation. Okay, now uh, internal structure of the kidney. If you see the inside of a kidney, the outer part is called the cortex and the inner part is called the medulla. And we'll see uh, the structures inside the kidney. First, you see this is the outermost covering of the kidney, and this is called the renal capsule. Renal capsule covers the kidney. Then this part is called the cortex. This is the outer part inside, right? Inside the kidney, this is the outer part, and this is called the renal cortex. Okay, and then this part is the medulla. This whole inside part is the medulla. Okay, so renal medulla. Now, in the medulla, you see pyramid shaped structures called renal pyramid. So you see these triangular structures, these are pyramid, and in between the pyramids you see the cortical tissue. This is cortex. Okay, here this is the cortex, outer part. So you see in between the pyramid the cortical tissue invaginates, goes inwards like this, and this is called the column. This look like, column. So renal column, you see here. So these are renal columns, actually go inside from the cortex. So columns separate the pyramids. Now, one more thing here, a pyramid and the part of the adjacent columns, like if I make this column half like this and this column half like this. So if I include this half renal pyramid and this half of the column, that means one pyramid and two adjacent halves of the column together form a lobule. Okay, so that is the renal lobule. Okay, so those are few things you can see inside the kidney. Then another thing, uh, the tip part of the pyramid here is called the papilla of pyramid. Okay, or renal papilla. That part is inwards. That's the pointed tip of the pyramid called the papilla. So this part is the papilla. Okay, and then you see the papilla. Next to the papilla is this structure, and this part is called the minor calyx. Minor calyx is like a cup. So if I draw here, this is a pyramid. Okay, this is another pyramid. Okay, and this is column, right? So this is the pyramid, and this is the column, renal column, and this part is called the papilla. Okay, then you have a cup shaped structure here that actually it's like a funnel or cup shaped structure that encloses the papilla like this. These are called the minor calyces. Calyx is singular, so minor, if I say only one, minor calyx. Okay, so this is one minor calyx, this is another, and then uh, minor calyces join to form major calyx. So here you see this minor calyx, they have joined here. So this is called what? Major calyx. Okay, major calyx. So let's see here now. So this is a minor calyx. This is another minor calyx. This is another, right? So these are minor calyces. So minor calyces join to form major calyx. Okay, so minor calyx, major calyx. Then all major calyces join to form this wide area that is called the renal pelvis. So there is another, more minor calyces like this. More pyramids are here like this, and these minor calyces join to form another major calyx, and then all major calyces join to form pelvis. Pelvis is the wide part by the joining of the major calyces. So here this is the pelvis, and then the pelvis becomes the ureter, the tube that gets out through the hilum. So this is the ureter. So pelvis then forms the or becomes the ureter, narrow tube. Okay, so this is the ureter here. Now what happens, let's go back. What happens, urine is secreted from the tip of the pyramid, that means from the papilla. So the urine is secreted into the minor calyx, the cup or funnel shaped structure that receives the urine from the papilla, and then the urine from the minor calyces go to the major calyces, and from major calyces to the pelvis, and then from the pelvis to the ureter, and then to the bladder. Okay, so that's how the urine gets out, bladder. Okay, so that's how the urine uh, uh, travels through the system. So here you can see this is the hilum, right, area, the ureter, artery, renal vein. Those structures pass through the hilum area. Now, again, you see inside the kidney. So these are the pyramids, right? Papilla here, minor calyx, another minor calyx. They join to form major calyx, and major calyces join to form the renal pelvis, and pelvis is the wider part. Then it gets out from the kidney through the hilum and gets narrow, become ureter. Okay, so that's how the urine travels. Now we'll see the blood supply of the kidney. Blood supply of the kidney is very important because kidney filters the blood and separates the toxic chemicals. So you see the blood enters into the kidney through the renal artery, and renal artery is actually comes from the aorta, abdominal aorta, that big artery. Okay, so the branch of the abdominal aorta, renal artery, is a branch. So renal artery enters into the kidneys, and immediately before it enters through the hilum, it divides into two branches. You see here, divides into two branches. So what happens, this is the, let me draw here, the hilum. Okay, so this is the kidney. Okay, and inside the kidney you have the pyramids. So this is pyramid, this is another pyramid, pyramid. Okay, so these are pyramids. So this is the renal artery, and it divides into two branches, and these branches are called segmental segmental arteries. So two segmental arteries, this is one, this is another. Okay, and this is renal artery. Renal artery. Now, from segmental artery, branches come out and they enter into the column. You remember, in between the pyramids, you have the columns. So, from the segmental arteries, the branches enter into the renal columns. Okay, and these are called interlobular. Interlobar, because a pyramid and adjacent columns together form the lobe. I said before, not lobule, lobe. So this is one pyramid and adjacent columns form the lobe. So since these arteries are in between the lobes, that's why these are called inter means in between lobar arteries. Okay, so this is one interlobar, this is another here, this is another here between the pyramids. Okay, then what happens, you see, the interlobar artery divides like this, like right angle, 90-degree angle is formed here. So divide and go along the base of the pyramid. So this is the pyramid, so runs along the base of the pyramid, and these are called arcuate arteries. Arcuate arteries. Okay, and then from the arcuate arteries, many branches arise like this in the cortex, right? This part is the cortex, the outer part of the cortex, kidney is the cortex. So from the arcuate, these branches come out, and these are now in the cortex, and that's why these are called cortical radiate. Cortical in the cortex, so cortical radiate arteries. Okay, so now let's see here in the picture. So this is the renal artery, splits into two segmental arteries, and then you see this is the column right here. So the branches of segmental pass through the columns, and these are called interlobar arteries. Okay, so segmental, interlobar, and then you see what happens, the interlobar forms right angle like 90-degree and go along the base of the pyramid like this. Okay, like this is interlobar, then it goes like this, and these are called arcuate arteries. So arcuate like this, and then from arcuate you see these branches arise, and they are in the cortex, right? That's why called the cortical radiate artery. Okay, now you see the renal vein that takes the deoxygenated blood out. So artery takes the oxygenated blood into the kidneys, and vein takes the blood out. And inside the kidney, what happens? The blood gives oxygen to the tissue of the kidney. However, the most important function here is that filtration of that blood occurs inside the kidney. So, cortical radiate. Now you see that the veins run along the arteries, and the name of the veins are same. So, interlobar vein, arcuate vein, cortical radiate vein, you see, most of the name of the veins are same. Okay, so just remember this much, cortical radiate, but that is not the end. We will start from cortical radiate again, okay, and see what happens next. So just remember from arcuate, this is the arcuate, right, and these are cortical radiate arteries, okay. Then we'll talk about more this more. So this is how the blood flows inside the kidney from aorta, abdominal aorta, renal artery, then divides into two segmental arteries, then interlobar, arcuate, cortical radiate. We have already talked about that, right? And then what happens? Cortical radiate gives branches, small arteries. Those are called afferent arteriole. So what happens? This is cortical radiate. I am just drawing. This is arcuate. This is cortical radiate in the cortex, okay, and from cortical radiate small arteries arise like this. Small arteries are called arterioles, so these are called afferent arterioles, okay, like this. Okay, so afferent starts with A. Afferent arteriole, that means small artery, okay, arteriole. And then from that afferent arteriole, what happens? A capillary, from the end of the small artery, capillary is formed. And that capillary is very interesting. What is that? That capillary is very long, but it makes a ball of capillary, like, worn. You have seen the old women, they, mm, that is called worn, ball of wool to knit the sweater. So uh, like that, the ball of wool. So that is the capillary called glomerulus. Glomerulus. It is a tuft of capillary or ball of capillary, of long capillary. Makes sense? So from the afferent arteriole, a long capillary uh, is formed, and that capillary forms balls of capillaries, and these are glomerulus. Okay, and then the filtration actually occurs through the wall of the glomerulus. This is very important. So filtration occurs in the glomerulus, here in the glomerulus. What happens if you see the wall of the glomerular capillary? There are fenestrations or large holes. So this is the glomerular capillary, okay, capillary wall. It is round, right? So if you make it straight and just see the wall has many pores or holes. So when the blood flows through the glomerulus, that capillary, water and lot of chemicals get out from the blood. Okay, and that is the filtration. Okay, so uh, water and other chemicals get out. So glomerulus is very important. In the wall of the glomerulus, you have those fenestrations or openings. Those are called fenestrations. It's large openings. Okay, pores. Okay, now advantage of having that long round capillary ball is that when blood circulates through the glomerulus, it stays there for a long time because it is really very long. So it circulates inside the glomerulus for a long time, and during that time enough filtration can occur. If it is just short and straight, then blood will quickly pass through it. Since it is long and round like this, coiled, so the blood takes long time to pass through it. So during that time, a lot of filtration can occur. Okay. Then what happens after filtration of blood? The blood gets out from the glomerulus through another arteriole that is called efferent arteriole. It starts with E, exit. So efferent arteriole brings the blood into the glomerulus, and efferent arteriole takes the blood out from the glomerulus after the filtration. So you see efferent arteriole, then glomerulus, and then efferent arteriole. So this is one capillary structure. I mentioned at the very beginning that there are three types of capillary structures are inside the kidney. So glomerulus is one, that's the round one, and there are two more capillary structures. One is called vasa recta and another is called peritubular capillaries. So if I ask you what are the three capillary structures inside the kidneys, glomerulus number one, vasa recta, and number three, peritubular capillaries. Okay, then the blood enters into the venous system. After the capillary, the vein. So same name, you see cortical radiate artery, cortical radiate vein, arcuate vein, interlobar vein. Okay, then renal vein. Then from the renal vein, venous blood will go to the large vein of the body, which is the inferior vena cava. Okay, so that's the entire, circulation of blood inside the kidney. First, arterial system here, arterial circulation, then glomerulus is a capillary, then again arterial, and then other two capillaries, then the venous system. So now the nephrons are the structural and functional units of the kidney. Uh, it is the smallest structure of the kidney inside the kidney that can individually produce urine. You know that the function of the whole kidney is what? Production of urine. However, each nephron inside the kidney can individually produce urine. So that's why it is called the structural and functional unit, okay, of the kidney. It is doing the same function of the kidney. Inside each kidney, you have about 1 million nephrons. That means, two kidneys have about 2 million nephrons. And now you can just think that how small each nephron is. Inside the kidney, you have about 1 million nephrons. Now, if I draw the structure of a nephron, how it looks like, okay? if you just take out one nephron and make it straight to see the parts in it, everything is very squeezed inside the kidney, because 1 million is inside, not only few. Okay, so if you just take out one and make it straight, then you will see the parts of a nephron. So this is one nephron. Okay, so this part is called Bowman's capsule. Okay, Bowman's capsule, very first part of the nephron. Okay, this part is the Bowman's capsule. It is also called glomerular capsule, same thing, glomerular or Bowman's capsule. Okay, why it is called glomerular capsule? Because you remember I talked about that round capillary structure, glomerulus. So this is the afferent arteriole, brings the blood right into the glomerulus. Efferent arteriole takes the blood out. And I told you, in the wall of the glomerulus, this capillary wall, you have fenestrations. So through the fenestrations, the water and solutes will get out and will enter here. That is the filtration. Okay, so let me write down here. Filtration occurs in this part. Okay, and another thing, just to know that the glomerulus, that ball of capillary, and the Bowman's capsule together is called renal corpuscle. Okay, so these things, two things together, the Bowman's capsule, first part of the nephron, and that capillary ball together is called the corpuscle. Here, renal corpuscle, glomerulus, and the capsule. Anyway, so now next part is convoluted, not straight. You see, convolution. So this part is called the proximal convoluted tubule. Proximal means early, proximal part of your hair, arm, distal part. We already know that proximal means near. So this is proximal convoluted tubule, PCT, not straight, convoluted. Okay, tubule, this part. And then you have a loop. You see, next part is a loop. This is called loop of Henle. Loop of Henle. Now, loop of Henle, it's like a hairpin the girls use, in their hair, and it has descending limb. It has two limbs, right? Descending, and this is ascending, because the fluid that enters into the nephron here by filtration, that fluid first passes through the proximal convoluted tubule, then goes downwards through the descending limb, then goes upwards through the ascending limb. So two limbs. And then you see this part again convoluted, and this part is called distal convoluted tubule. So this is proximal convoluted, this is distal convoluted, and then distal convoluted gives urine or fluid into this larger structure that is called collecting duct, also called collecting tubule. So collecting duct. So collecting duct collects the fluid or urine from distal convoluted tubule, and each collecting duct collects urine from many distal convoluted tubule. Like this is another nephron. Okay, so this is the Bowman's capsule, proximal convoluted tubule, loop of Henle, and then distal convoluted tubule. Okay, so like this. So another nephron, right, is giving the urine here. You have another one here, like proximal convoluted tubule, loop of Henle, distal convoluted tubule. Okay, enters here. So one collecting duct collects many urine from many nephrons. So these are the parts of a nephron. First part is the Bowman's capsule or glomerular capsule, and it is actually partially covering the glomerulus. And then proximal convoluted tubule, loop of Henle, distal convoluted tubule, and the collecting duct. Okay. Here you see this is the afferent arteriole. Okay. Then the glomerulus is here. Then the efferent arteriole. And this is the Bowman's capsule or glomerular capsule. It is like a cup shaped or funnel shaped part that partially covers the glomerulus. Okay, and you see fluid enters. This is the proximal convoluted tubule. This is the loop of Henle. This is the distal convoluted tubule, and this is the collecting duct. Okay, so a number of distal convoluted tubule enter into a collecting duct. So collecting duct collects urine or fluid from several distal convoluted tubule or nephrons. Okay, and what happens? Finally, the fluid gets out this way, right? And now something interesting. If like just I think that 100 milliliter, just for say 100 milliliter filtration has occurred here. So 100 milliliter fluid enters into the nephron, and when it passes through this nephron, different parts of the nephron, uh, most of the water goes back to the body. That is called reabsorption. Okay, so 99% water gets back into the body through different parts of the nephron. How much? 99%. So only 1% gets out from the nephron as urine. So this is urine. Okay, so the fluid that enters into a nephron, 99% of volume of it is taken back through the wall of the nephron, and finally only 1% gets out. So if it is 100 milliliter filtration occurs here, when the urine will get out, that is only 1 milliliter. Makes sense? So most of the water is going back into the body. Okay, now in the human kidney, there are two types of nephrons: short-looped and long-looped nephrons. So, short-looped nephrons are called cortical nephrons. Short loop of Henle. Okay, loop of Henle, short-looped. Most of the nephrons are like this, and 85% in human kidney. And just know that cortical nephrons produce dilute urine, and 15% nephrons are long looped, long loop of Henle, and these are called juxtamedullary nephrons, and they produce concentrated urine. Concentrated urine. Okay. So in human, we have more cortical nephrons. However, if you just think about like a camel, camels don't drink for a long time, like months, right? When they travel, so they have more juxtamedullary nephrons because they need to produce highly concentrated urine. They don't let the water get out through the urine. Preserve water. So in camel, you have more juxtamedullary type nephron. However, the animals that live in the water, like sea beaver, a sea beaver should have more cortical nephrons because they don't need to preserve water in the body. Okay. Here you can see this is one nephron here, and the loop of Henle is here. It is short loop of Henle, right? So this is cortical, and this is another nephron. You see, this is juxtamedullary nephron, and you see the loop of Henle is very long, right? Very long here. And around the juxtamedullary nephron, you have that capillary structure called the vasa recta. You remember I said there are three capillary structures, three types of capillary structures inside the kidney. The ball, that is the glomerulus, right, where filtration occurs. I showed you glomerulus, a tuft or ball of capillary, like worn. Number two, this one around the juxtamedullary nephron. This is called vasa recta. Vasa recta is like a ladder shape. This is the loop of Henle. Okay, this is the loop of Henle, long loop of Henle of juxtamedullary nephron, and your vasa recta is just present around the loop of Henle like this, and this is vasa recta around the loop of Henle, and these two limbs of vasa recta are connected by the branches like this. So it is a ladder shaped capillary structure, vasa recta, ladder shaped. Okay, and then another one is called the other one, the third one is called the peritubular capillary, which is around the cortical nephron. You see this one here. This is the peritubular capillary here. So around the cortical nephron, peritubular capillary. So if I ask you what are those three capillaries, those are three types of capillaries and their locations. Okay. This is called cortical nephron. Why? You see, you already know inside the kidney, outer part is the cortex, right? And inner part is the medulla. So what happens? Cortical short loop nephrons just go like this. So this is the Bowman's capsule here, goes like this and that. So this is cortical. And if you see now a juxtamedullary nephron, it goes deep into the medulla. Long loop of Henle, right? So this part is the medulla, deep medulla. This is cortex, right? Outer part. Makes sense? So you see, this nephron is mostly in the cortex. That's why short loop nephrons are called cortical nephrons. And this one, the loop goes deep medulla. That's why called juxtamedullary nephron. Okay. Okay. Now, uh, a structure that is called juxtaglomerular apparatus or JGA. What is that? Again, let me draw the nephron. This is the Bowman's capsule, proximal convoluted tubule, loop of Henle, right? Now, I'm drawing differently because you remember I told you that inside each kidney you have 1 million nephrons. So everything is very, you know, uh, squeezed, uh, squeezed inside the kidney. It is not like I did draw before. It cannot stay like that, open. So everything is very squeezed. Now what happens? This is the afferent arteriole. This is the afferent arteriole. Remember that forms the glomerulus, that ball of capillary, then efferent arteriole. This is afferent arteriole. Okay, and this is the distal convoluted tubule. Okay, so this is proximal convoluted tubule, and this is descending limb of loop of Henle, and this is the ascending limb of loop of Henle. So fluid goes down like this, then goes up like this. Okay, and this is then distal convoluted tubule. Okay, now you see, actually inside the kidney what happens, since everything is very squeezed, the afferent arteriole and the end part of distal ascending limb of loop of Henle, they come very close to each other. So this is afferent arteriole, this is the last part of ascending limb of loop of Henle, and they come very close to each other, these two structures. Okay, so now if I make a cross section here and see, I'll see this is the arteriole, afferent arteriole, and this is the end part of ascending limb of loop of Henle. Make sense? So these two structures are very close to each other. So you see here, distal portion, that means the end portion of ascending limb of loop of Henle, and the afferent arteriole. These two structures together is called juxtaglomerular apparatus. Okay. Why this structure is important? Why this part is important? This part is very important because in the wall of the afferent arteriole, and this is the ascending limb, you have some cells, highly specialized cells in the wall of the afferent arteriole, and these are called the granular cells. Okay, and since this is an arteriole, inside the arteriole you have blood here, right? So if the blood pressure inside the afferent arteriole drops, blood pressure falls, what happens? The granular cells secrete a chemical. We talked about that before. That is called renin, the endocrine function of the kidney, renin. So the granular cells secrete renin when the blood pressure inside the arteriole is low, drops. Usually we say mean arterial pressure map that drops below less than 80 millimeter of mercury. 80 millimeter of mercury, that will cause the release of renin from the granular cells. So these cells are sensitive to blood pressure, change of blood pressure. Okay. Now, why renin is important? Renin increases the blood pressure. Increases the blood pressure. So, when blood pressure drops, renin is released, and renin increases the blood pressure. So, you see that renin plays a very important role, right, in your body. Now, we'll see later how renin increases the blood pressure. Okay. So, that's why juxtaglomerular apparatus is important. That part of the uh, afferent arteriole and the nephron. Here you see this is afferent arteriole, this one, and these are the granular cells here in the wall. Okay. Filtration. You remember I told you that glomerulus, the ball of capillary, right? So this is the glomerulus, afferent arteriole, efferent arteriole, and then you have what next? It is partially enclosed inside the capsule, Bowman's capsule or glomerular capsule. Okay. So I already mentioned in the wall of the glomerulus you have the fenestrations, right? Holes. So when blood passes through, the fluid gets out. Also, the fluid can pass through the capsular wall here. Okay. So first the fluid passes through the wall of the glomerulus, capillary wall, and then it passes through the capsular wall to enter into the nephron, first part of the nephron, right? So now you understand that here you have two structures, wall of the capillary and the capsular wall. So capillary wall, let's first see the structure of the capillary wall. Capillary wall has two layers in it. So this is the capillary wall. Okay, has two layers. And then if you see the capsular wall also has two layers. So let me draw the two layers. This is one and this is another. Okay, so this part is the capillary wall and this part is the capsular wall. Okay, and since this is capillary wall, you have blood here, blood inside the capillary, right? And so blood is here and inside the nephron is in this side. So from the blood the fluid passes through those two walls, and each of those two walls has two layers. Okay, now what are those layers? Let's start from the uh, capillary side. So this layer, this one, is called the endothelium of the capillary. So this is capillary endothelium number one, capillary endothelium. Okay, and then this layer of the capillary wall is called the basement membrane. Okay, so those two layers. Now let's see the capsular wall. This capsular wall, this layer is called also basement membrane. So you see two basement membranes. The basement membrane of the capillary wall and the basement membrane of the capsular wall. So these two basement membranes are fused together because same structure. So we can say one basement membrane, okay, because each come from each wall, but they are attached to each other, and same structure, basement membrane. So fused basement membrane. Okay, that is the middle, number 2. And then in the capsular side, you have the membrane of glomerular capsule, this one. Okay, so endothelium, fused basement membrane, and the glomerular membrane of glomerular capsule. So those are actually 3 layers if you consider basement membrane as a single one layer, because they are fused to each other. So the fluid uh, passes through those 3 layers and enters into the first part of the nephron. Then it goes through the proximal convoluted tubule, then loop of Henle, right? Then distal convoluted tubule and the collecting duct here. Okay. So here you see the 3 layers: capillary endothelium, fused basement membrane, and the glomerular capsule. 3 layers. Okay. Here. Mechanism of urine formation. Uh, so I'll just show you what happens when the fluid, after filtration, right, fluid passes through the nephron. So you already, I have already drawn this few times. So this is a nephron. So after filtration, fluid enters there. Then while the fluid is passing through the nephron, 3 things happen. Okay, 2 things happen. One already, one thing already has happened. That's the filtration. So that is number 1. Glomerular filtration. That is the first step of urine formation. Filtration, and I explained that you have the glomerulus here, right? So the fluid enters here. That is called glomerular filtration, number 1. Number 2, while the fluid passes through the nephron at different segments, different parts, water and electrolytes, other chemicals, are taken back into the body. You remember I said 90%, 99% water goes back, right? As well as important chemicals, those should not get out from the body with the urine, will be taken back into the body. That is called reabsorption. Here reabsorption means taken back into the body. Taken back into the body, or return into the body. Return to the body. Okay, that is reabsorption. And in some locations, what happens? Opposite of reabsorption. That is called that is called secretion. So reabsorption is taken back, right, through the wall, and secretion is through the wall from the body entering into the nephron. So just opposite of reabsorption is filtration. Okay, so this is body here, right? Your blood or body. So now remember that anything finally remains inside the nephron will get out from the body as urine, and anything that is getting back by reabsorption will remain in the body. Okay, so this is the reabsorption to preserve or retain. Okay, and secretion is just opposite to excrete, because when secretion occurs, that chemical will enter into the nephron, right? So it will get out. So now you remember at the very beginning I said that if hydrogen ion concentration increases, right, acidosis occurs, which is not good. So in this case, you have excess hydrogen ion in the blood. So secretion of hydrogen ion will occur. So hydrogen ion should be excreted, right? So secretion will occur, hydrogen ion will get out from the body. So this will be fixed. Okay. So those chemicals we should excrete, secretion will occur uh, in those chemicals. Those we should retain, should not let get out, will be reabsorbed. So those are the three processes of urine formation: filtration, reabsorption, and sorry, this is secretion. Secretion, opposite of reabsorption. Okay, secretion. So those are the three processes of urine formation. Filtration occurs in the glomerulus right here. Reabsorption and secretion occurs through the wall of the tubule. That's why I call tubular. Reabsorption, tubular, secretion. Okay. So those are the things you need to know from this part, first part of